Fannie Mae, and they're being ignored. I don't know why we would want to have financial reform without more transparency in the system, and I'm not prepared to have taxpayers bail out firms. The concept of too big to fail, I only know of one thing that's too big to fail, and that is the United States of America.
Mr. Berry, you have a minute regarding financial reform.
First, I agree. The Senate bill needs to include Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae reform. $145 billion down the drain because of their irresponsible behavior. Not having that in the bill is like sending Tiger Woods to rehab and not addressing the topic of adultery. Secondly, if you identify more firms as too big to fail when you have an implicit government guarantee, that means that they're going to take riskier behavior and they're going to be more bailouts in the future. Third, creating a new regulatory structure is not the answer. Part of the reason why regulation failed in the past was actually we had too many regulatory agencies. Responsibility was too diffuse. I don't often agree with Senator Dodd, but when he presented the first draft of his bill, he wanted to consolidate agencies and have a strong central regulator and get rid of the duplicative 3 or 4 regulators kind of doing the same thing. Unfortunately, he didn't prevail in the discussion, but we need to consolidate agencies, not grow another new agency.
And you thought there wouldn't be a Tiger Woods joke tonight. Doesn't miss the point. Mr. Fisher, the same question to you regarding financial reform, the bill that is currently being considered as far as business and banking.
I have on my website a plan to reform the financial system to solve these things. And I think it's well thought out. I believe we really need to look hard at the National Reserve, nationalize it. They're coining the money. We owe the National Reserve $500 billion now. We recoup that $23.7 million, establish a federal loan lending facility. We're going to do that for student loans. We need the loan directed to businesses, low-income loans, particularly for job generation. In healthcare. And on my website, I got a plan to put America to work. We need 2.6 million people in healthcare. And I have TRICARE Block. I get everything paid for because of my naval career. My primary caregiver gets paid a salary instead of sitting in bills and everything. I believe we should pay nurses, doctors by the hour, and that's all outlined in there. And we do need to reduce the size of those large financial institutions. Thank you.
Very good. 30-second rebuttals here. Let's begin, Mr. Murray.
After what happened, we do need some sort of reform. We need to learn that we can't react with emotions. We need to react with reason. And when you overregulate, you reduce our ability to create jobs, and that is a problem. I think what is the most important thing is transparency when it comes to what we're doing with financial reform and with regards to these large companies. I don't think you'd have Goldman Sachs selling paper to people and then shorting it if they knew that.
Mr. Barrett.
2 quick points. There's a provision in this bill that prohibits businesses and customers from freely entering into arbitration agreements. Why is that there? Because the trial lawyers want it there because they want to sue people as opposed to going to arbitration. Secondly, the Democrats will say, oh, Matthew Berry's cozy with Wall Street because he opposes the financial regulation bill. Well, if this bill is so tough on Wall Street, why has it been endorsed by Goldman Sachs?
30 seconds, Mr. Fisher.
Well, I do say we do need, there's a couple other things we needed to do, and the government's capable of doing this. We do need to get better people in there. We need to get better congressmen in, of course, or at least get the ones that are in there to do their jobs better. We've got to get that campaign finance out. I think that's a part of the problem. There's a lot of money flowing from the fires called finance, insurance, freight rates. But we do need to regulate these systems, and we do need to have federal money.
All right, gentlemen, let's get to our final question now. We're going to begin with Mr. Berry this time. This is something that obviously most people in the room, I would imagine, could attest to. And in regards to taxes, small businesses are currently paying a multitude of federal, state, and local taxes. Do you think that the tax structure, for businesses that's currently in place should be simplified? And if so, how would you go about doing that? Mr. Berry?
on the table, or three things are, number one, cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%. Number two, double the investment tax credit. Number three, make sure taxes on capital gains, dividends, and small businesses, such after S corporations, don't go up at the end of the year. There's also something on the table that President Obama's economic advisors are pushing now that I'm absolutely opposed to and would be terrible for small business in Northern Virginia, and that's a value-added tax. And I don't care whether you call it a value-added tax or a new national sales tax, but you have my word that if you send me to Congress, I will never vote to impose a value-added tax or sales tax upon the American people. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fisher, the same question to you. The tax structure, should it be made simpler, and if so, how?
Absolutely simpler. Eliminate all of the small taxes. I believe you can eliminate the sales tax. And certainly you can't have flat taxes. We have a tremendous wealth divide in the country that we have to address. It's growing. Every year it's more, less money in the hands of the poor. It is absolutely critical. The world is a world of plenty. Poverty should not exist. 5% of the world's population could produce enough for the entire world. We don't want to do it that way, but 5%. It's on my website that outlines this. Now, this sounds pretty drastic, but I think I'll try to cover it in 30 seconds. Look, it gives fewer and fewer people wanting more and more of the money. So we have to have a property tax. We all pay property taxes here on cars. Now, what I say is it's outlined, and I'll finish, but we have to count all wealth as property and have a progressive property tax, but give massive deductions for people who really want to do something. T-Bone Pickens could be Mr. Wind Power. He would hire a bunch of people to come to wind power. Excuse me. Thank you.
All right, same question to you, Mr. Murray.
I mentioned at the outset that keeping taxes low is a good pro-growth policy, and it is. You know, our tax code right now is Americans spend about 5.5 million hours a year just preparing their tax returns. The tax code is something like the equivalent of the Bible 7 times over. We need something a lot more simple, and we need something that keeps us from having to pay north of 60 to 70% of taxes, depending upon where you live, when you add everything up. And so that is critical, that is important. There's actually a bill that is in Congress right now about something called the fair tax, which, wouldn't it be nice to have a national debate about how to have our taxes in the low 20s as opposed to north of 60%? That's going to take some courage. That's going to take some leadership. But I told you at the outset, this is not a business as